things. So here, it's the computer room, and Julian is there. We have a 3D printer here, and all this kind of stuff. And then the wood workstation is downstairs, and also the electronics part is downstairs. And there is like a sort of meeting room, and it's a media lab, basically.
Cool.
Nice.
Now we're in Gaudi labs.
Huh?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you're in Gaudi labs. I don't know Gaudi labs in like the physical space. I just know the name and the project.
But here, there's a graffiti on the wall.
Nice.
There is Gaudi himself.
Hi.
His wife, Rachel.
Maybe 8 microplastics.
Rachel is almost asleep.
She's watching a movie.
All right.
We are ready, Felipe, Marc.
Yeah, good.
Live on Facebook, it's okay. And I share the link with Felipe and here in the chat. If you want to share in your network, the link is at the chat. Pessoal, a gente vai ter agora.
This is too much for me to do, but maybe someone else.
Send an email.
To who?
To share something.
If someone wants to share it on Facebook, I cannot do this now. Someone else.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just for after, if you want, okay?
But so there is this like Hackteria page on Facebook. You could also just maybe if you have time, you can share it there as well. It's a Facebook page called Hackteria.
Okay.
So you can, after a few minutes later, you can also share it there. I have no time to do it. I have this computer now.
No, okay.
Cool.
We are ready, Felipe?
Yeah, I'm ready. We can start.
Okay, and I want to introduce Marc and open this session if you want.
Please do. Yes, Juliana, can you introduce him if you want?
Yeah. Okay. I'm introducing in Portuguese, okay, Marc? And after Felipe talk with you, okay? É prazer ter vocês aqui, Marc, Felipe. É um projeto, a gente tem esse projeto de compartilhar conhecimento por meio de webinários. E hoje, o pessoal que está acompanhando a gente aí no Facebook, é o último webinar da série em que o Conector Ciência e vários parceiros, né, estão promovendo, falando dos microscópios a baixo custo, uso de microscópios DIY e como eles chegam aos caminhos de aprendizagem. Então, hoje a gente vai conversar com o Marc. Vou falar um pouquinho sobre ele. O Felipe vocês conhecem, né? Felipe, muito bom ter aqui você de novo, fundador do Conector Ciência. Ele já esteve com a gente em outros momentos aqui na rede. Hoje o nosso convidado, então, o Marc, é um acadêmico transdisciplinar, palestrante de micro e nanotecnologia, facilitador cultural e artista. Ele realiza oficinas Faça Você Mesmo em eletrônica e sintetizadores lo-fi, hackeamento de hardware para Ciência Cidadã e microscopia Faça Você Mesmo. Atualmente, ele está desenvolvendo meios para realizar pesquisa e disseminação de bio e nanotecnologia. E ele é convidado do Felipe, do Conector Ciência. É um prazer ter você de novo, Felipe. Então, uma parte, o Marc vai conversar com a gente em inglês e o Felipe vai fazer um pouco um compilado do que ele está contando e vocês vão ter um momento de interação em breve, ok? Então, vocês podem fazer as perguntas em português, que todas vão ser repassadas para ele. Marc, welcome.
Hello, can people hear me?
Yes.
Very good. So, should we start discussing first a little bit? Felipe, you want to say something to me in English so I can enter the discussion?
No, I mean, like, it's open for you to start like talking about Hackteria and whatever you want to speak. Juliana has introduced it in Portuguese. I don't think it makes much sense to maybe I can introduce it in English as well. But I think most
to say something to me.
say something? No, just we started. Have fun.
Okay. You said I should start to say something about Hackteria, so I put the sticker in front of the camera. So this is our logo. And this is a random kind of tag on the wall. So I briefly switched to my own camera. So this is me, I'm Marc. So hello, everybody who is listening. In the background there, you see a tardigrade on a poster, which is our kind of icon or logo of Hackteria. Hackteria is a website, hackteria.org, and we have started it about 10 years ago, and we use the tardigrade in our logo. It's also on my t-shirt. And there's also the island of Taiwan on my t-shirt, which is, and some Chinese characters. So I am at the moment in a lab that is full of tardigrades and logos and other stuff. I have shown this before, Let's Save the Whales International. This is a tag on the wall, and I just briefly show you where I am at the moment. So this is Gaudi Labs, another lab in Switzerland. There's a shelf, and there was Gaudens, the founder and the only person at Gaudi Labs, and there's a painting on the wall. And there is like some machinery. There is Josephine. She speaks also Portuguese. She can maybe help me if you have a question.
Boa noite.
What did you say?
Boa noite.
And there is Julian working on the microscope there in the back. So we want to talk about microscopes today, because it's one thing that since the beginning of Hackteria that I have been introducing in many, many workshops all over the world. And microscope is maybe also an interesting, let's say, fundamental technology where also historically we have started to extend our human senses to observe and understand the nature, the environment around us by using some lenses and some other lights and other things to see beyond what our eyes or our ears or smell can sense. For hundreds and thousands of years, I think humanity has looked and observed nature and tried to understand and document it. But at some point, the limitations of our human senses were reached, and we have used various things to extend it. And one example again, I show you again a piece of Gaudi Labs. Meanwhile, oops, the camera has fallen. Meanwhile, the machine looks like this. This is a extremely expensive fluorescent microscope that we got for free because it was old and it was in a dump and it's a black box. But we can take apart these black boxes and understand what's inside and make new use of it. And I think it was called the use of do-it-yourself microscopes for citizen science. I think that was the title of this webinar, so I can put it here. Uso de microscópios DIY, Hackteria, and so forth. So I don't know how many people are listening. I will briefly switch again to myself. I said that my name is Marc. We're based at the moment in Switzerland, in Luzern. I live in Zurich, but this kind of Luzern where Gaudi Labs is one of the main partners and friend of mine. And this is an open kind of laboratory. So I thought it was best that I stream from here.
Sorry, Marc. Do you mind if I just say a few words about what you just said? Or
yeah, please do.
Yeah, in Portuguese. I will do it in Portuguese, just like a general.
Yeah, please do.
Então, gente, o Marc acabou de introduzir o laboratório chamado Gaudi Lab e a comunidade aberta chamada Hackteria, que é Hackteria, né? Se a gente falaria aqui em português. O Gaudi Lab é um laboratório aberto e várias pessoas... E ali a logo que ele está mostrando da Hackteria, o Marc está mostrando a logo, que é um tardigrade, que é um urso, aquele urso d'água, né, Juliana, que chama... E ele é usado também pelo Foldscope, outras iniciativas também tem o tardígrado também como esse ursinho de referência. E o Marc estava falando que tem um microscópio de fluorescência que eles criaram usando uma Illumina, um sequenciador do Illumina, e que era um material que tinha sido jogado fora, no lixo, e que ele chamou de black box, né? E aí depois a gente pode até perguntar para ele como ele entende essa questão do black box, mas seria esse material que você não consegue entender o que está acontecendo dentro dele, né? Então veio uma tecnologia, essa black box, e aí eles começaram a abrir e verificar o que estava lá dentro, e esses microscópios que eles usam dentro de um contexto de Citizen Science, que é DIY Citizen Science, né? Em que eles, que é ciência cidadã, né? Então, ciência feita pelos cidadãos. Mark, I will give you back to you, so you can continue. Thank you.
Good. So I want to show us a short slideshow that also tells a bit the story of how I ended up building microscopes. And then I will introduce the do-it-yourself microscope, and I also show the people in a very brief stage on how you can build a microscope from just a very cheap webcam. This is the webcam. And yeah, so I have to now, I think, share my screen. I hope it's working. Let me check briefly something. Yes, I think this is good. I go back to Zoom and then I share screen and I choose this. So I think you should see a screen show now. Do you see it? But I don't hear you anymore.
Sorry, I do. Yeah, I just...
You were silent. That's good. So in fact, I just came back from Lapland in the Arctics, and I will go to Stuttgart tomorrow because we're in the middle of this Homo sapiens network activity tour from Luzern, Finland, Stuttgart, Zurich, and then China, Berlin. I don't know where it goes on, hopefully to Brazil. So you see the screens now. Let me, I have to, maybe I show my face on this one. Here, yeah, more interesting. So I really like to be around in labs, Gaudi labs, for example. I also was in labs before, and there has been many labs I have been involved. We are representing this Hackteria, open source biological art, which is a website, hackteria.org. And we have started it about 10 years ago with the strong idea that we should share our methods, also being not, let's say, in a pure scientific environments, but also working within the art context, the maker and educator context and other stuff. So the idea of open source applied to non-institutional research, which could be artistic research and so forth. In fact, this is my other lab, Rande Lab. It's a kind of house in Switzerland. It's also where we do a lot of meetings and kind of retreats. It's not always snowy, but sometimes. I'm lucky that I have this from my grandfather, and there's no electricity. And it also maybe shows one of our shared interests in this group here, that instead of working in a laboratory that is highly equipped, we like to bring our laboratory into the biology itself, into the nature itself. I think sometimes we're always stuck a bit too much in laboratories and forget that life is complicated, it stinks, it smells, it might fall on your head when you're in the forest, so forth. But I was trained in material science a long time ago. So in the early 2000s, I was working at this interface, this nanoscale interface of engineered materials and life itself. So we were building new materials that we're growing cells on. And I was working in these kind of laboratories or workshops that is called a clean room. And, you know, this interface between the engineered, the artificial, and life, in the end, we have to look at these few molecules that are in between. And that defines the interaction. For example, if a material is in your body, like an implant, or if the living materials, it's outside of the living system, like in a petri dish. So this interface is a few molecules that define and control the interaction. So this was my field of research. I enjoyed it very much because it was very interdisciplinary. I have to work with engineering people, material scientists, physics people, biologists, and so forth. But this was very high-end, high-tech research, and I'm kind of happy at some years later, I joined this more like hackerspace and maker movements.
Mark, yeah, can I just say to people what you said in a few words? Okay. So hello, tudo bom, gente? O Marc, então, apresentou um pouco da carreira dele. Ele falou que vai começar a apresentação falando um pouquinho disso, né, da carreira dele, depois vai falar como que os microscópios são construídos, e usando uma webcam, que é um material bem baratinho, e ele vai falar também do projeto chamado Homo sapiens, que ele está atravessando a Finlândia, China, Berlim, várias cidades e países com um projeto que é para observar o solo. Ele vai explicar um pouco mais. E o Marc falou que gosta muito de estar em um ambiente de laboratórios, está envolvido em diferentes tipos de laboratórios, não só os dentro da academia, mas também os laboratórios comunitários. E eles fundaram a Hackteria cerca de 10 anos atrás, e para compartilhar métodos de forma aberta, e também em diálogo com outros campos, por exemplo, as artes, o movimento maker e educadores também, sempre numa perspectiva de ciência aberta, que é o open source, né? Então seria a abertura de publicações, dados, materiais, etc. E trabalhando de uma forma não institucional necessariamente, tá? Uma pesquisa institucional e não institucional, nesses dois mundos. E aí ele trabalhou também no outro laboratório, que é um laboratório que ele herdou, na verdade uma casa que ele herdou, uma cottage, né? E ele tem lá nesses encontros, retreats, as pessoas vão para lá, passam um tempo. Nem sempre está tão nevado quanto ele mostrou na foto lá, mas a casa também não tem eletricidade, então é uma coisa meio assim um pouco complicada. Mas ele falou assim que a ideia é essa, que você não precisa ter um laboratório completamente equipado para você poder trabalhar. Então eles gostam de construir as próprias ferramentas deles, porque ele acredita que você também tem que estar lá fora. Ele traz os laboratórios também para o mundo lá fora, né, para a natureza, porque tem cheiros, visões, sensações que vão muito além do que você está vivendo dentro do laboratório todo asséptico, né? E ele também falou que trabalhou com coisas nano, por exemplo, DNA origami, esse tipo de coisa. E ele também gosta dessa interação de como você trabalha com coisas vivas dentro do corpo, que seria o biohacking ali, né? E fora do corpo também, por exemplo, uma placa de Petri, tá? E ele sempre trabalhou com pessoas muito de forma interdisciplinar, então com diferentes tipos de engenheiros, biólogos, etc. So, Marc, I give you back the words.
Thank you. I think you summarized perfectly. So, having left academic research about 10 years ago, I entered, and I think maybe you see now, I entered this world of like maker hacker spaces with a community in Switzerland. It's called the Swiss Mechatronic Art Society. And we started this kind of maker lab, and I got really inspired that suddenly I learned electronics. I had no idea about making things or what was plus and minus on a battery. I also got to learn this more hacker and open source spirit and the do-it-yourself spirit. So this is not something I learned as a young researcher. This is something I learned after kind of a short postdoc and ended up like, what should I do with my life? And I entered this field through my interest in electronic music. And so I started to build synthesizers. And through that, I started to also travel the world and do workshops on how to do it yourself, simple synthesizers in India or in Indonesia. And we kind of celebrated the 10 years anniversary of this community just recently. And it was kind of then only a little bit later, like 10 years ago, when I also started teaching a laboratory course on nanotechnology. And suddenly I thought, I'll do it very differently to how I was trained. So I introduced this DIY mindset and the open hardware approach for my students to build their own nanotechnology laboratory. So this was in 2008. I called it Wet Pong. So the students were meant to build like games involving nanotechnology, do-it-yourself, and living systems like cells and nematodes or tardigrades. So that's a bit kind of the background of how I ended up in this citizen science or alternative circles or hacker or also art circles. That's again Wet Pong. Yeah, maybe you can briefly translate that, and then I go to what is Hackteria.
The sound, okay, the sound is back. All right, I will do it. Então, o Marc estava falando que ele deixou a academia por falta de cerca de 10 anos atrás, e aí ele começou a trabalhar no movimento maker, trabalhando com hackerspaces, com hackers, isso dentro do contexto da Suíça, tá? E ele trabalhou num lugar chamado Swiss Mechatronic, se eu não me engano esse é o nome, que é uma associação de pessoas que trabalham com essa parte de eletrônica. E ele aprendeu eletrônica, essas questões de fabricação, ao longo do processo. Depois que ele terminou o pós-doc dele, aí ele ficou pensando, o que eu vou fazer na minha vida? Né? What I'm gonna do of my life? E aí ele decidiu, então, começar a trabalhar criando primeiro synthesizers, que é o sintetizador, é aquele negócio que você usa para música eletrônica, você vai lá e faz uns diferentes sons. E para quem não conhece, ele começou a trabalhar com isso e começou a fazer workshops no redor do mundo, na Índia e em diversas partes. E aí ele começou a trabalhar também como dando a disciplina de nanotecnologia. E aí ele começou a explicar para as pessoas de uma forma diferente do que ele aprendeu, que é de uma forma de criando laboratórios, como que você cria os equipamentos, construindo jogos, né, os games, sistemas vivos, living systems, como por exemplo células, tecidos, e também tardígrados, que é o urso, né, tardigrades, que ele é um apaixonado. E ele também falou um negócio do wet pong, mas eu não entendi o que é wet pong. Marc, what is wet pong? I didn't get it.
So I called my class, I called wet pong. It was a laboratory class on like microfluidics and nanotechnology. And as a project-based learning, I asked the students to build a game using whatever we developed throughout the semester. Yeah, and so inspired by my geeky background in like 8-bit computers when I was young, this somehow. So the maker spirit came together with my science learning and my geeky spirit from a young sci-fi 8-bit Commodore geek. And so, so this is a bit where I think this DIY laboratory equipment started as a student learning experience that I was involved as a lecturer. But then, so this more the biology and Hackteria started that in an event called Interactivos, where we were looking at tardigrades and space exploration in Miguel Prado in Madrid. This is also where I met Andy Gracie and Yashas Shetty, the other kind of founders, as well as was Gaudens, who was in this room, Gaudi Labs. And we thought, you know, it's interesting, this do-it-yourself method, so that when artists or other creatives want to go into biology, where to start? Should you go into a laboratory to ask if you can do a residency? Should you study another degree? And we thought this kind of more DIY approach is very interesting for non-educated scientists to enter whatever scientific practice if they can build the equipment themselves. So I brought these microscopes, we looked at tardigrades, we made some music together, and so forth. And so we started this idea that it's very easy, in fact, to build a laboratory. This was a toilet in Spain. You know, you just need a bunch of funnels, maybe a balance and a hot plate. And one of the key instruments that has been used in science is the microscope, to what I said in the beginning, to extend our human senses. So we started this idea of Hackteria, which is about, it's a website where you find lots of instructions. It's also a website where we inform other people about our activities. We have developed mostly practices around how to do workshops for example, citizen scientists or for hackers or for artists, and especially me and was Gaudens Gaudi Labs focus a lot on this open source hardware for citizen science, do it yourself, for creative purposes as well. It has developed into mostly a network of friends from Indonesia, Taiwan, Spain, England, Germany, that we keep working together. And we use our wiki, which I think is here. Where is our wiki? Here. We use our wiki to document our activities. So I think it's a good resource if you want to look into many also other projects, not only the microscope. You'll find inspiration, maybe not fully completed documentations, but you find inspiration for things that's possible. Some of them are simple, some of them are more complicated, some of them are just rough notes from an activity. But yeah, there's a few hundreds of projects documented there. Yeah, you want to maybe say something?
Yes, I do it. Thank you. Então, o Marc estava falando que a ideia do Hackteria surgiu no Interativos, que é um encontro que acontece anualmente no Media Lab do Prado, que é em Madrid, que é um Media Lab bem conhecido mundialmente. E eles começaram isso em 2009, tá? E foi lá que o Marc também conheceu os outros fundadores do Hackteria. Então, o Hackteria basicamente é uma comunidade que visa democratizar a ciência, fornecendo diversos tipos de informações online para que as pessoas possam fazer oficinas de ciência, possam aprender a construir equipamentos. Ele até falou que é bem fácil de construir um laboratório. Tem até uma foto que ele mostrou ali, que era um banheiro, e que eles fizeram todo o laboratório no banheiro. E para ele, o principal de todos é o microscópio, porque o microscópio ele amplia os sentidos humanos, né? Então, ele considera isso como um elemento central dentro do laboratório. Eu concordo plenamente. E a ideia também do Hackteria é para non-educated scientists, de pessoas que alguns chamam amadores, outros chamam de pessoas cientistas cidadãos, possam participar do processo construindo o que eles quiserem. E eles fizeram essa residência no Interativos. Então, você tinha o microscópio lá, a galera olhando o microscópio, depois também dançando.
Welcome to the Global Hackteria Network. Sorry.
Yeah, you can continue.
No, we're making jokes here. My friends are really inspired by that. We're here in Switzerland, and suddenly everybody talks Portuguese.
Nice, so wonderful. I feel like being traveling.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think maybe it's partially my own interest also within the Hackteria network. I had this opportunity to travel, so we developed it into a very global network. There is similar circles like in bioart that are maybe more European. There's like the biohacking scene in the US. But I think Hackteria has always been a connecting element between different circles, also embracing what I sometimes call a radical transdisciplinarity. So from philosophers and cooks and researchers, hackers, like everybody is welcome to join. And I do hope that this will bring some other values to society. Being myself, I think primarily an educator, teacher, or I sometimes call it workshopologist. I have meanwhile also found that I'm not the only one in the world that thinks building a scientific equipment is a very valuable educational experience. So in pedagogic research, there has been a long time ago people looking into this before, and it's about these black boxes. So by either taking apart an existing scientific equipment, or by building one from scratch, or by hacking an existing technology to build a scientific equipment out of it, I think there is some very deep, I think, valuable learning experience we can provide. And I found this one paper called Beyond Black Boxes, Bringing Transparency and Aesthetics Back to Scientific Investigation. I also very much like this approach of bringing aesthetics into a scientific equipment, so that each one who builds a microscope is building it their own style, which creates a level of ownership. It also creates a huge diversity of different models that come out. And when we have this personalized equipment, maybe people take more care of it and they don't just throw it away when it's broken. So I found that I was really inspired, like years later, after I've already done my practice, that there is even a theory, a pedagogic theory of why this could be valuable. It comes from MIT, Mitch Resnick, lifelong kindergarten circles. Do you want to say something, or?
Do you want me? Can I translate, or how?
Yeah, I think it's maybe good to do it a bit fast.
Right. Sorry. Yeah, I'll be faster. Então, gente, ele apresentou a network, que é conectando elementos de diferentes círculos, bem interdisciplinar. Ele falou que todos são bem-vindos na comunidade da Hackteria, e ele espera que esse processo traga outros valores para a sociedade, tá? O Hackteria acredita que hackeando equipamentos traz outros tipos de aprendizagem nesse processo, né? E, por exemplo, o artigo que ele colocou ali, que é o do Black Box, tá? Do M. Resnick, lá do MIT, que trabalha no Lifelong Kindergarten, que tem até o Creative Learning como projeto, que ele nem comentou, mas eu estou comentando. E ele acredita muito na estética de equipamentos científicos também, e ele acha que quando as pessoas começam a fazer por conta própria, né, o DIY, você adiciona o estilo, a diversidade, essa questão do ownership, né, de quem você ser dono daquele equipamento, é personalizado, e você passa a tomar mais cuidado. Ele acredita que através desse tipo de ação mais faça você mesmo. Marc, it's back to you.
Yeah, good. Am I still on? Yeah. So meanwhile, we also joined larger network like the GOSH network. Please look it up on the website, Open Science Hardware. The website is openhardware.science. But now I think I want to start getting a bit more practical. So we should start looking at things. So the building a microscope is extremely simple. The hack that I found, I didn't invent it, but I found and I used it, let's say, as a workshop method, is that we use a very cheap webcam that meanwhile is, very consumer electronics, and we can build a proper microscope out of it. So I'll change the camera to this one and to this one. I think maybe I briefly switch that to share my screen to go to this screen. But now I see that, do people see my hand, or do see people Felipe very big? Yeah. And so this is a webcam that I bought on AliExpress or on eBay. There's many different you can try. They also can look like this. It's some kind of USB cable. It's a USB webcam. It has USB on the other side. And I'll show you the image it shows. So now I think you should see me again. Very good. So when we look at this webcam, there is the lens, and it's quite often that you can turn this around a little bit to change focus. And I show you this again on this camera. So I look at myself again, or I can look at Julian. Where is he? There. If I change focus, suddenly you will see he's not in focus anymore. If I look back at myself, I'm still kind of okay because I'm closer to the object. So I turn this lens further and you maybe see that I'm again out of focus. So I just have to come closer with the webcam and you will see I'm kind of in focus again. And then I can go further with this and I have to come closer again. It's good. So this already is good enough hack for many workshops you do with children, because if you want to look at something really small like my dirty finger, we can look at my dirty finger. Adding a bit of light is sometimes helpful. What we can also do is we can look at the screen to see the pixels in your screen. I don't know if you can see it. So I can look I can screw it even further out and I see individual pixels of my screen. Screw it further out and individual pixels. And you now even see the red, the blue, and the green pixels of our screen. And for many stuff, if you look at some insects or some little creatures you find in nature, this magnification is good enough. This is the ashtray, for example. Maybe you want to see my ashtray. There's like high magnification of cigarette butts. Now, anyway, you can also look. I think eyes are always good. Oh, this was my tongue. Did you say something, Felipe? You're muted.
I was just like wondering what was it, and I was like, oh, it's his tongue.
My tongue, yes. And so this DIY microscope project is mostly about just, I put this camera again. Where is it? This one. So it's mostly about just flipping out this a little bit. This is good enough to look at insects or some flowers, and then you can attach it also to your phone when you have this USB to USB connector, and there's some apps. If you want to have an even higher magnification, you flip it all the way, you screw it all the way out. Takes a while. And then you just flip it upside down back to the webcam. And now I change again to this other view and look again at the screen, which is a bit more difficult. And you see 2 pixels, I think. So in this magnification, and I go back to my face, in this magnification, you would see easily individual cells, like from your skin, from your blood, from your sperm, from wherever you want to take it out. What, Juliana, what was that? I can't hear you. So we're looking at the field of view, like that. What we see in the image is maybe about 0.5 millimeter, and everything that's small, let's say a yeast cell, is about 5 to 7 micron. It would fill up like 5, 10 pixels, so it would be a little dot that you can recognize. Larger cells, well, from our body would be like 50 microns. So you would even see the full shape of the cell. You see the nucleus. It's not a high quality microscope, but still it's good enough to see all these small animals, not bacteria, but all these like protozoa, ciliates, what is it called? Shoe animals, nematodes, little worms. Yeah. So it's really a very simple hack, but I have to tell you, holding a microscope like this is not the way you do it. So I go back to the slides. Double click. So
Marc,
at some point, yes, you want to translate some stuff, yes.
yes, it's been quite a lot of stuff. I'm just going to go quick and then we continue. Então, gente, o Marc, ele mostrou como que você usa, hackeia um webcam, USB webcam, então está conectado ao computador. Ele pegou a lente e desenroscou um pouquinho a lente em vários níveis, né? Para poder mostrar que só de você desenroscar um pouco a lente, você aumenta a distância da lente ao sensor e faz com que você veja um aumento maior até você ver pixels, né? Mas também dá para você ver insetos, ver o olho, né? Ele chegou bem pertinho do olho para poder conseguir ver, enfim, os cílios e tal. Ele estava falando das dimensões do microscópio, que você consegue ver até leveduras ali como pontinhos, né? Mas você não consegue ver bactérias, mas você, por exemplo, consegue ver células do corpo, uma qualidade que não é tão boa, mas é uma qualidade que já é suficiente para você ver coisas do campo, né? Por exemplo, nematóides, vermes, né? E etc e tal. Marc?
Antes, eu tô aqui tão chocada que até engasguei, né? Eu aqui bebendo água, engasguei comigo mesma. Pede desculpa.
Juliana just said that she was so kind of awed by it, or the word that she used was like shocked, but in a positive way, I guess, that she kind of choked it a little bit. It's like, oh my God, what's happening here? But in a good way, she apologized.
Yeah. So it's something I was never interested in selling at a specific project. I think the key learning here is that with every webcam, you can do this. And of course, we sometimes build or 3D print a setup, and I will come to this later. But somehow I wanted to show this, that you can go there very fast and have this wow, I can see all these small things. To make it more useful, it gets a bit more difficult. And maybe you have seen we're kind of building microscopes like this, and there's a reason. So I think my screen is shared, is it? So yeah. So the basic setup of the microscope is we have this webcam looking upwards, and we need light sources also to optimize the light conditions. And we also need to get samples. That means we should go out of the lab as fast as possible. Huh? We should, go hiking. We should maybe just walk around in your neighborhood, or just make sure you not only look at the screen. If we look at this setup, this is from, I don't know, 18th century. This is also microscope. So what we need to build a microscope, I just showed you the optical digital part of it. We need something to put the samples in. That's this little wine glass. I could even draw. Should I? This is complicated. We need a light source, and we need the optics. That's this little tube that you see there. And we need some means of putting everything in the right position, the big box, so it's really stable and it doesn't shake. We might need to change the position of all these different parts. So we put the book there and the little pillow so we can move it around. And so this is what I do many times at workshops, to build a huge variety of different setups. And so it's a very interesting also challenge for people, build your own microscope, not using the 3D printed or Fab Lab version, but just come up with Lego or with cardboard or with chopsticks to build something. And suddenly, if the setup is really stable, you will get good images. If it's not stable, it's always shaking and it's very hard. And so what you see here on this last image is a bunch of tardigrades, and I think they're really cute. And maybe you can translate again to this point, Felipe.
So I will translate. Então, gente, o Marc falou assim, olha, a gente vai lá para o mundo lá fora, mas a gente acaba fazendo isso também, né? E começa a investigar coisas que estão lá fora, né? Não vai olhar só para a tela do computador, né? Mas falando isso mais na perspectiva dos estudantes, né? Então, outros materiais, ele falou da conformação do microscópio, por exemplo, você precisa de uma lâmina de vidro, da luz, depende da distância, da posição, das lentes, precisa de uma estabilidade para poder funcionar bem. Igual ele falou que as conformações podem ser modificadas, então você pode tirar um travesseiro daqui, aquela imagem que ele mostrou do século XVIII, né, se eu não me engano, você pode mudar o travesseiro, as partes, reformular toda a estrutura, e ele gosta de fazer esse tipo de coisas nos workshops dele. Então, ele pede para as pessoas montar diferentes setups, né, diferentes tipos de organizações. E aí ele mostrou a imagem do tardigrade, que é esse urso, né, d'água aí, que ele conseguiu tirar uma foto bem legal. Então, Marc.
Yeah, good. So here is a really expensive microscope again, but anyway.
It was free for us.
So as you can see on this thing, there's many ways to build this. We have shared on the wiki and on GitHubs like something you can laser cut. So if you're interested, is that you really want to use it for your project to investigate like whatever the microbes in your soils or to investigate your own body, there is like pre-made instructions on how to do it. But I think it's a very nice exercise to try it yourself and come up with your own custom personalized design. And time is passing fast, kind of. So we have done this in various settings. We have done this many times in a kind of university education setting. That's where it's originally coming from. We have done it also in Switzerland, in Indonesia, everywhere in the world. It's always, I think, a good exercise for students to figure out what is microscopes. We often done it with a lot with kids, children, and we have applied it to various topics. So with this Homo sapiens, that's the scene that we have here now, we apply this DIY microscope to investigate the small animals that live in soil. At other times, we have investigated how can we use the microscope to measure like blood cells in a sample. We can also look at our own body, and with children, it's always fun. Where's the own body? We can use it to look at our own body. I showed you my tongue. But this is another example where we have looked at vaginal smears to look at cells in kind of the genitalia, female genitalia. We can maybe look at infections or just whatever, get a sense of your body. Maybe not so much as a diagnostic tool, but more as a tool to open up a discussion, open up an awareness of your body. And anyway, create this like sense of curiosity, and people can really do something by themselves, look at something by themselves, and even store the files only for themselves, not sharing them, not going to a doctor to do so, not going to a scientist to get the samples analyzed. Maybe that's enough, and you can translate again.
All right. I just want to make a comment, actually, because Clarissa, there is a biologist here in Brazil. She also works with the interface of art and technology, and she uses a microscope to investigate her menstruation. Is that a word in English? Yeah, her blood.
Yeah, menstruation.
Yeah, so, right. It's quite interesting. So she put it like as a way of reflecting about femininity and how people pursue like female bodies as like objects, and how you feel uncomfortable about like the menstruation and something that comes from your body and should be seen as natural, right? It's quite interesting from the female perspective, right? Então, I'm going to translate. Então, eu falei que ele acabou de falar de outro tipo de microscópio, que é o de laser cut, que é cortado na laser, e que você pode também investigar micróbios no solo, encontrar sua própria opção de coisas que você quer investigar, também para fins educacionais. Ele fez essa oficina em diferentes partes do mundo, ao redor do mundo, e, por exemplo, com crianças, jovens, para poder olhar pequenos animais e células, seja no seu corpo ou no ambiente que você está. Tá? Por exemplo, ele usou isso para poder medir células sanguíneas também numa prática, é bem interessante. E ele também já utilizaram, por exemplo, o microscópio para olhar aspectos da genitália feminina e mesmo a mucosa e tal. Então, a ideia realmente acaba entrando até numa perspectiva artística também.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, Marc. Just a minute, please. I think it's the internet fail for Felipe. Just a minute, okay?
I show some tardigrade, some water fleas.
Okay.
Am I back?
Yes, you come back, Felipe.
All right, we can continue, Marc, please.
Okay. So now I'm just showing some water fleas on the microscope on the small little image. Anyway, yeah, we briefly lost you. That's more or less, I think that's mostly what I wanted to say. Maybe a last comment again. I'm thinking a lot about people are interested in this fab scene, that they want to have this finished kit. And I'm very much promoting, let's just show people how to develop their own kits, because maybe locally in your educational setup, it's very different if you work in a kindergarten or if you work in a let's say, biomedical engineering school. But still, I think it's very valuable to build the microscope as an educational experience. So the kit, even, I think it restricts what people think it's possible with it. And so by more showing that the top image on this one, it's like you can make it out of cardboard, but you can also make really nicely designed microscopes that will work well. So the focus is easy to adjust, that also tell another story. In this case, it's kind of some Taiwanese traditional kind of graphics. Because we do a Hackteria lab in Taiwan, there's rumors. Yeah, I think that was more or less all I wanted to say. I showed you briefly what the hack is about. I showed you a bit how I ended up doing this kind of microscopes and many other things. I did not talk so much about coconuts, which maybe I'm opening the discussion now, that if someone wants to talk about coconuts, yeah, that was all I wanted. It's already much more than 50 minutes, so maybe we should have some people asking questions.
Maybe I'm just going to translate this this last part, because I think it's very powerful what you said too about the kids. So I'm just going to do it. And the coconut also. I can tell people also if they want to know a little bit more about coconuts. So just a second. Olá, gente. Bom, eu vou traduzir um pouquinho o que o Marc falou agora. Na verdade, assim, uma ideia geral. O Marc, várias vezes que ele encontrou nas oficinas dele, as pessoas pedindo kits, mas ele não é a favor de kits. Por quê? Porque a ideia dele é que você faça você mesmo os seus próprios equipamentos usando os materiais do seu contexto, né? O que você encontra ali no seu espaço. E aí você pode usar isso também como uma experiência educacional, né? Igual ele falou, né? Que você pode usar a experiência de construir como um processo educacional. E os kits acabam restringindo muito a forma que você pensa sobre um objeto, né? Então você acaba seguindo ordens, não exatamente a criatividade abrindo ali na sua mente. E a ideia é que você pode fazer os microscópios com papelão ou com outros tipos de materiais que permitam focalização melhor. Por exemplo, aquele que ele mostrou da Tailândia, que tinha inscrições, né, da Tailândia, que a pessoa fez com todos os detalhezinhos e que aparentemente tem um foco melhor e é cortado a laser. Então, tem uma diversidade de coisas que você pode fazer com criando seus próprios kits, tá bom? O Marc também falou que se vocês quiserem saber um pouquinho sobre coconuts, como é que chama, Ju?
Coco.
Coco. Se vocês querem saber um pouquinho de coco, ele também faz pesquisa com coco. Ele não falou muito sobre isso, mas está aberto a falar também, tá bom? Quem tiver perguntas, está aberto.
Já tem pergunta. Posso passar para você? Marc, thank you. A gente tem uma pergunta sobre recursos. Como é que ele mantém os projetos da Hackteria e esses outros, né? Se ele recebe recursos de empresas ou ONGs para os equipamentos, as viagens e o trabalho. E também a Aline está perguntando se ele já tentou trabalhar isso com crianças. Eu acho que é com crianças, né? Talvez ela não tenha entendido bem. Acho que ele pode responder melhor sobre financiamento de tudo isso e também sobre trabalhar com crianças. E qual a faixa etária que ela está perguntando?
Marc, we have a question. Quem que perguntou, Ju?
Yes, about financing.
Sobre recursos foi o Robson Soares, e sobre a faixa etária das crianças que ele trabalhou, indica, foi a Aline Chinalha da Unicamp.
Yeah, so we have a question about your financing support, how you finance this whole entrepreneurial kind of perspective.
Yes, these are two questions. Yes, the second one.
The second one, how you work with kids, and the third, yeah, the age range that you work.
Let's start with how I work with kids. In fact, through my electronics DIY stuff, I started to work a lot with children, which was new for me. I'm happy I'm not doing it every day, but I'm very happy I'm doing it regularly. And I think if you can do workshops or explain something or whatever, co-learn something with kids, then you can also do it with adults, not the other way around. It's extremely inspiring to work with kids, but also exhausting. But I had very good I think I learned a lot by sometimes being exposed in Indonesia. I thought I'll do a workshop at some kind of university, and I ended up in a kindergarten. I didn't know, and suddenly you have to kind of adapt to, like, you have to improvise, and you get so much back also. And I think only then you can sharpen your educational methods by being exposed to this, I think, unknown environments, and it can be children. I think this can go for on and on for a long time. I think I'm mostly an educator, so this could be even a whole other session about, I call it workshopology. It's how to do workshops properly. But I would advise you, if you're generally more doing workshops in the adult student scene, try it out on kids. If it doesn't work, your method with the students is also wrong. Because you have to treat everybody as a kid, and you have to inspire the kid in the person to create this kind of creative learning atmosphere, which is what I want to do. There's many other learnings that is already covered. We have to learn the words for a learning language. We have to learn the math and the physics. But these other aspects, I think, that we are covering is in this, like, being more inspiring this curiosity. And I think it's best to work with kids to learn how to teach. The second question was?
How you, vai, Felipe.
How you
can get support for your research or Hackteria and others actions,
I think
travels and other workshops.
I think our main resource is self-exploitation.
Cheap labor.
Yeah, that's just like a lot of these workshops I do just by not getting paid. I am in the lucky position that I live in Switzerland and I have a PhD, so I sometimes teach at universities, like a 1-week block course, and then I can live from that in Indonesia for a couple of months. So I'm a bit in a lucky position that I have access to paid jobs, but not, let's say, a full position. So I can allow personally myself to have other work that is self-exploitory. But then, in fact, because we have situated Hackteria a bit more close to the arts world than to the science world, we have had regular project-based small funds from arts and culture, which we talk about a few thousands, and we not talk about Swiss salaries. But this is usually enough to organize some of these events we do. For example, Homo sapiens, what we wanted to do is to grow a local network, to come together and learn together. And what we needed for that is a few $1,000s just to pay travel. And we managed to get it through some kind of citizen science and crowdfunding here and there. But generally, this is all like work we do with self-exploitation. It's enough to make people happy, so the food is paid and maybe we pay a travel, but it's not for making a living in Switzerland, especially where living costs are extremely high. But then when we as Hackteria, we have many different nodes all over the world. So the situation is very different in other parts. And it's usually the self-exploitation model, and then finding a hack how to survive as a person and pay the rent.
Just a minute, please. Felipe, você pode traduzir as duas, tanto do financiamento quanto do anterior da faixa etária, porque tem uma nova pergunta sobre faixa etária, um pouco mais delicado, né, sobre crianças com necessidades especiais, né? Então, para a gente entrar nesse assunto, eu prefiro que você traduza esse início, ok?
Okay. Mark, if you excuse me, I'm going to translate what you just said in general words, okay? Então, o Marc respondeu a primeira pergunta sobre a faixa etária, que ele falou o seguinte, que se você consegue explicar para uma criança, você vai explicar muito melhor para adultos também. E o inverso não necessariamente funciona, né? E essa questão do processo educacional é muito baseado na experiência. Você vai se adaptando, você vai improvisando, você vai recebendo feedback e depois você vai melhorando sua perspectiva educacional ao longo do processo. É um processo de aprendizagem comum, tá? E que ele até tem uma metodologia que ele chama workshopology, que é como fazer workshops. Então ele ensina isso, sim, ele chegou a esse nível agora, depois de passar por esse tempo todo, de como que um workshop deve ser feito. Tem disponível no Wikipedia deles. E se não funciona para uma criança, o método que você está usando, a forma que você está usando para trabalhar, certamente não vai funcionar para os seus estudantes na universidade também. Porque o que ele acredita é que você tem que inspirar a criança que tem dentro de cada pessoa e inspirar a curiosidade nelas. Então, se você consegue trabalhar com... Exatamente. Se você consegue trabalhar com os estudantes a questão da curiosidade e da inspiração, você também vai conseguir fazer provavelmente isso com os adultos. Sobre a questão da faixa etária, a idade, sobre recursos, desculpa, ele falou o seguinte, que é self-exploitation, que é o seguinte, que ele mesmo se paga para poder fazer as atividades, tá bom? E por quê? Ele trabalha num contexto em que ele ensina nas universidades e vive na Suíça. Então, ele tem outros tipos de fontes de recursos ali próprias, pessoais. Ele não tem uma posição, que em inglês chama full position, né? Ou tenure track, esse tipo de coisa, ele não tem, mas ele trabalha como professor, dando aula. E ele gosta de fazer isso de forma gratuita, mas ele também trabalha com outras interfaces, por exemplo, com artistas, com cientistas em outras instituições, e ele consegue pequenos projetos que ele chamou Project-Based Small Funds, que é basicamente, ele pega dinheirinho de alguns projetos, por exemplo, o Homo sapiens, que é um projeto que ele está criando agora. E a ideia é que eles conseguem, de vez em quando, também possibilitar alimentação, food, travel, né, viagem, e algum tipo de recurso extra para as pessoas que vêm participar dos workshops, tá bom?
Mas aí agora tem esse caso das crianças autistas e com síndrome de Down, porque ela disse que gostaria de levar isso para crianças que tenham essas necessidades especiais, né? E se ele já teve essa experiência antes, autistas e crianças com síndrome de Down.
Hi, Mark. I have a question here about children that have been to your workshop. So people are really interested because probably there are many educators in here in this discussion. For example, people with Down syndrome and autism, have you worked with them with your workshops, and how have you done that?
Yeah. I think a few adults in our scene are kind of like children and weirdos, and so I have learned also through these hackers, nerds. No, this was just a joke. I don't have so much experience, but it happened once or twice in my workshopology practice that I was also within these circles. In Indonesia, once we worked with this mostly physically, but sometimes also mentally handicapped people. It was, yeah, but it's something I'm not doing so often. But again, what I said before of like, if I can work with children, it's extremely, I think, if you're interested in teaching, even if you're not exposed to these other children or also children with special needs, let's call them, it's extremely interesting to try it out, also just to sharpen your skills in education per se. But I would not be able to give you much advice if you do this like more regularly. I have done it once or twice, but this was, I think, unique experiences for me. And I improvised with whatever I had, the skills. And these improvisation skills, I think, are key for doing workshops.
Então, Juliano, o que ele respondeu foi o seguinte, tem muito essa questão da improvisação, realmente ele não falaria como um expert sobre o assunto em trabalhar com pessoas com necessidades especiais, que ele chamou em inglês. Então, ele vai trabalhando com eles como qualquer outro estudante ali no contexto que ele está trabalhando, aparentemente, pelo que ele me explicou. Tem mais alguma pergunta, Ju?
Tem minha. Do tardígrafo ao coco, como é que ele faz essa viagem da Hackteria, qual é a pesquisa dele com o coco, e como é que ele faz essa relação, né, de tantas coisas que ele vê, como é que ele integra isso para criar, né, dessa forma que eles criam de forma colaborativa e com perspectivas tão diferentes. Se ele puder falar um pouquinho da pesquisa dele com o coco, seria legal.
Okay, so this question was about how to manage this global network and traveling all the time. So thanks, Josephine, by the way, for helping me to translate. She lives in Portugal, and she's also part of this microbiomic German Swiss network about soil. Anyway, so how to establish this network? I think it was a bit coincidence. I think the network, we had this original idea that Hackteria, this was the late 2000s, so that, you know, you have this web platform and everybody kind of contributes with content, which was already, let's say, later in this kind of ideas, then Facebook and other stuff also came. But so we figured out quite fast that the platform, the web platform itself is not working. It's not enough. We need to have this physical gathering, and we have to be together for a while to also create content that's available online. It was a big coincidence that I started to get invited to do workshops in Taiwan, Singapore, Indonesia, India. And so this was just happening at the same time when we started Hackteria. And I think it was a big coincidence that then we thought this is an interesting aspect as well, that beyond the interdisciplinarity of having a bunch of hackers and researchers and artists working together, we also take this as a soil, as a fertile soil that we work very cross-culturally. So it was a bit of opportunity we saw, and it also was a niche that we saw other people who were not feeling. The do-it-yourself biology scene was very American. And so we thought, this is more interesting if we get this influence from these also other cultures. And then from then on, it's just like hard work. Huh? It's just like keeping these activities again and visiting again, finding money for people to travel, so you meet again. And yeah, so it's hard work. It's also that it's maybe from my side, it was only possible because I did not have a permanent position or a job somewhere. So I can take 3 months off and live in Indonesia, which I just did this year again. This kind of strengthens the network and the collaborations and builds trust. And I think as a network, we mostly built it up on friendships that have grown, not so much about skills or topics. It's more, I think, personal friendships that have grown.
I guess, yeah, it was a very, como que eu traduzo isso? Foi bem geral, assim, então, assim, ele encontrou com vários tipos de pessoas por uma questão de oportunidades mesmo, então é naturalmente uma coisa bem orgânica, de oportunidades que eles tiveram, foram se encontrando, e aí a comunidade começa a ser construída. Ele colocou uma questão do contraponto com a América e com os Estados Unidos e a Europa, que eles buscaram tentar uma coisa mais ampla nas interações. Eu vou até perguntar isso mais para ele, eu tenho 2 perguntas para ele, eu vou fazer, tá? Hi, Marc. You just mentioned something about like differences between communities around the world in regard to DIY bio, for example, the US perspective and the European one. Where are the differences between these communities and where they merge together?
I know, I don't want to make these generalizations now. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to answer this question.
Right. The other question is like, if someone wants to start a lab right now, what kind of tip would you give to this person?
We made this like the 3 laws how to start a lab. Never start a lab alone. That was it.
Felipe, quer traduzir? Porque eu tenho mais uma pergunta.
Marc, o Marc falou que assim, eu perguntei assim, como que você daria um tip, né, uma dica para quem quiser começar um laboratório? E ele falou assim, nunca comece um laboratório sozinho, tá? E sobre a pergunta, a questão das diferenças dos tipos de movimento, ele não quis responder, não acho interessante esse tipo de discussão, tá bom?
Certo. Na verdade, eu tenho mais uma dúvida, que é como ele está vendo esse movimento na América Latina, esse crescimento do interesse, se isso é uma perspectiva minha, ou se realmente o interesse da América Latina por DIY tem aumentado. E a outra coisa é sobre como que a Hackteria, ou se a comunidade tem feito algo pela microfluídica ou alguns equipamentos dessa parte, né, de microfluídica.
Mark, Ju has two questions. One of them is, what do you think about the whole movement sort of happening right now in Latin America? I think she just wants to probably hear what you think about this whole thing growing here in Latin America. And the other thing is, if you have been working with microfluidics, some sort of equipment on this area.
Yeah, okay. So I rarely have been to Latin America, but being quite involved in this DIY bio and bio art circles, I was happy to see it. I have seen it obviously on social media growing in many places in also Latin America. And last year, we organized the Open Science Hardware, the GOSH in Chile. And so that was when I also met a lot of people, and I saw there is like, maybe the last 3-4 years, a lot of groups have come. And similar to everywhere in the world, there is like these kind of scene that go to do-it-yourself biology from the synthetic biology circles, kind of MIT centralized, organized, and everybody has to think genetics is really cool. And then there is these other circles that come more from interdisciplinary approaches, from art and design, from we really like fermentation and make kimchi or sourdoughs and stuff. And I think, and then there is the other amateur biologists like the bird watchers, which are also great. But so I've seen the same there. And what I liked about my impression about Latin America is there is on one hand still a very strong activist open source mindset around. That is something I have observed, which I kind of miss a bit in other scenes. Yeah, and there is already existing networks that are very connected because of language that I think can be very fruitful to share. Let's say if there is an instruction translated into Spanish, I think it's very easy and nice to spread it all over the continent. Let's just stick to this question first and translate.
Right.
I
probably won't translate it because it's like
it's obvious. It's all about translation. In fact, I figured out, I was wondering myself that microscope project is an extremely nice thing to show people. Why is it not known everywhere in the world? And I figured out maybe it's this thing that it has to be translated that people can find it, just purely translated. But now everybody wants to have some innovation and we have to have these hackathons to come up with something new. Why not use an existing project? And this is a 10-year-old project. And just translate it and bring it there where it's needed or where it's wanted.
Yeah, that's yeah. Hackteria though has like a Portuguese version, right?
Maybe we have, huh?
Yes, I remember when I was researching about microscopes, I found a manual written in Portuguese.
Maybe not. Well, I think it's only the microscope project where we tried at least to have it in more language. And you are very welcome to get an account for Hackteria and do the translation. But this is, I think it's a bit a boring job, but I think it's maybe where we can bring this open source project really to the people. It's just by making it available in the languages. But you will not get a TED Talk. I have translated an instruction.
Então, o Marc falou que tá todo mundo bem-vindo se quiser traduzir algumas instruções do Hackteria, tá? Eu não vou traduzir tudo, Ju, porque na verdade é bem integrado ali o que ele falou. Depois acho que todo mundo pode dar assistir novamente o talk e tentar compreender um pouquinho melhor, tá? Você tem mais alguma pergunta aí, Juliana?
A de microfluidics que ele respondeu, eu perdi.
É verdade. So what about microfluidics? Are you working with this type of technology?
Yes and no.
There are about 20 over here.
So this is the Open Drop developed by Gaudi Labs in collaboration with this like weird collaborative network, and lots of people have contributed to it, which is a microfluidic platform which doesn't do much, but it looks cool and it works and it's cheap. Me personally, so this whole, like what I said in the beginning, this wet pong, I was teaching this kind of lab course on microfluidics.
Oh.
That's in fact where I started to have this interest into like these do-it-yourself methods, and because microfluidics is very accessible for the DIY practice. And I did some microfluidics in my young researcher years in the early 2000s, but I'm very frustrated to see how the microfluidics research has not, whatever, hold to any of the promises. In early 2000, they said, we make this microfluidics, it's gonna heal cancer and malaria. And nothing happened. They just published a bunch of papers. So I thought it's interesting to bring this possibility into these creative circles, into the maker circles, the entrepreneur circles, and the art circles. But somehow I'm a bit frustrated about, I went to these microfluidics conferences 15 years ago, and I go there again, and they have not done anything. So maybe by open sourcing it, it would be a great example that somehow this whole microfluidics scene has been stuck completely. It went academized or patented, so nothing ever happened. And with Open Drop, we try to look at a different approach, and it's kind of successful.
So I'm going to translate. Marc estava falando do Open Drop, que é uma tecnologia de microfluidics ou microfluidos.
Microfluídica.
Microfluídica. Que ele ficou assim, eu acho que ele acha interessante e eles têm criado isso, outras pessoas têm criado, mas ao mesmo tempo as promessas não estão necessariamente sendo cumpridas em relação ao campo, né? Então ele acha que com a abertura do conhecimento dessas tecnologias, aí as pessoas vão começar a usar mais e o melhor uso dessas tecnologias, tá? Tem mais alguma pergunta, Juliana?
Quando ele vem para o Brasil, ele, a Josefine, todo mundo.
Quando nach Brasilien kommen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's coming soon. When I only was once in Chile, but it was only part of East Coast. I haven't seen anything of the whole continent. And personally, I have been, what I said before, this network is very much built on long-lasting friendships, and just coincidentally was in the other direction. But yeah, but there's many people in the network, and people, yeah, are happy to be able to come and share and learn.
Are there people from... Sorry.
Estão dizendo aqui que se ele vier, já estão lá, só para ver de perto.
Seria um grande prazer fazendo isso.
You have to build a microscope.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Teleporter.
Oh, yeah.
So, tem mais perguntas, Juliana?
Não, aqui terminaram.
Tá, eu vou fazer uma pergunta então para ele, tá?
Opa, tem uma pergunta aqui, ó.
Another question, Marc.
Se ele aceita pesquisadores para fazer estágio, visita para conhecê-los e conhecer esse trabalho de perto.
Marc, someone has asked if you also receive people like some sort of residents from other countries, so they can exchange ideas with you personally in Switzerland.
Yes.
So you have some type of program or some residents?
On an individual basis. So in fact, like I think a lot of work we did within the network is when we have an opportunity, maybe through a project or someone who invites us, that we kind of bring the network together again. And we have places to sleep, but we're not an institution. But in fact, it's one dream that we are working on, is that this Hackteria network residency program, also in these different notes. I'm showing the screen again. So this is a bit the map we have. Also, I have this house in the middle of the forest that I showed at the very beginning, which I tried to get funding to be able to host friends, but then usually through a specific project, we manage that, you know, maybe someone from Nepal comes over, and instead of just for the conference, we make sure he stays a month or she, and then we can visit here. And so it's kind of on individual partners, we made it happen many times, but not as a formalized program, but it's something I'm working towards, in fact, at the moment. And hopefully, because for me, I had this experience that was very helpful, so I want to establish this, that other people can also have these experiences.
Então, Ju, acho que conseguiu entender? A ideia foi realmente assim, que eles têm essa intenção, você pode participar, assim, mas a ideia não é uma network física, né? É mais online, embora ele tenha esse espaço para se encontrar, por exemplo, o Gaudi Lab, né? E ele até tentou fazer com um espaço, uma casa que ele tinha, né, para poder as pessoas se encontrarem. Mas realmente é uma network bem aberta online, né? Tem a Wikipedia, tem esses espaços onde você pode participar, né? Então acho isso bem interessante, assim, de ser um espaço online, né?
Ó, a gente adorou, a gente quer ele tomando coco na praia de Copacabana.
Juliana mentioned that she wants to meet you at some point in Copacabana to drink coconut water. Mark, I have a question.
Josefine, também, com certeza, viu, Josefine?
Josefine
também. Eu não lembro o nome dele. The other guy. Eu não lembro o nome dele.
Ula.
Você também.
Ula.
Julian.
Todos tomando coco na praia de
Juliana, it's the same name as you. It's like Juliana, but Julian.
Ah, ok. Julian. Todos convidados, né? Né, Felipe? A gente vai adorar.
Yeah, you're all invited to come here. I mean, like, we're gonna find a way sort of to do something that we can do something together here in Brazil. Let's hope for the opportunity, as Mark said, like opportunity is all about the community in Hackteria. So at some point, people start breathing and find ways to work together towards common goals, right, Mark?
O céu azul garantido. Agora essa nevezinha aí já não dá, não.
She's like, oh, but the snow, it's a little bit like, oh, maybe the snow we can take it out, and then the house is pretty good.
Yeah, so I just came back from another residency in the Arctic. It's run by the BioArt Society. I can very much like. It's really nice up there. It's the end of life.
So what are you doing there up north? What kind of?
It was kind of a gathering, a camp, a retreat for. We were 35 people, and from different practices around art, research, ecology, activists, makers, and we just spent a week together hiking.
It's not your first time in Finland, right?
I was many times in Finland, but never in the Lapland. This is like another 20 hours journey from Helsinki. Yeah, but some other is like it's one place I went many times, and Slovenia is also very interesting. It has a strong scene in Europe if you're interested, and they have also run programs. We have not managed. The difficulties in Switzerland is if you want to run a program, you have to get a lot of money because it's really expensive here. So it's really a bit of a challenge that it's challenging for us to invite someone and have a 2 months residency because you will not be able to eat because it's expensive here. So my friends in Indonesia, in Life Patch, it's kind of, if you manage to get there, you know, they can host you and everything. Life is cheap and somehow. So it's in fact easier to do residencies in these places. And here in Switzerland, if we invite someone, we need to also make sure that he can survive and eat. And so this means we have to raise even more money to be able to host people for a residency. But we'll manage, we work on it.
Para finalizar, ele mostrou um tardígrafo no meio do caminho, mas estava pequenininho lá no canto. Será que ele pode mostrar de novo na tela grande?
I actually have a question, Ju. I have a question, Ju.
Ah, desculpa.
2 questions, actually. Mark, I actually have 2 questions, actually. Then Ju wants to wrap up with you. So one of the questions, the Homo sapiens project, you're talking about that people can get involved in the project. It's a citizen science project, right? How do people get involved in the project? It's beyond the workshops.
So Homo sapiens, now you only see this little water flea there.
Yeah, awesome.
We started it this year within this like local networks of Hackteria and microbiomic to bring people together around a specific topic, which is soil. So what we have is we have the Hackteria forum also. You find it linked on the website. And that's a discussion forum, a virtual platform. You want to say something also, Julian, about how can we get involved globally on this Homo sapiens project?
So it would be nice to collect some content, also maybe in Portuguese. Why not? On projects that are in any way related to soil research that is done outside of established laboratories. So if you're interested, just write an email or maybe look, yeah. And actually, we recently got an email from a Chilean group who wants to be involved and start something in Chile. And we're just right now trying to figure out how to share our resources, because that translation is also an issue. But we would be very motivated to have an international Homo sapiens network.
But the idea about, thank you, I will spread the word. Pessoas, vocês podem participar também do Homo Sapiens Project, contribuindo com mandando e-mail para eles e falando como vocês querem participar, tá bom? But I'm just curious, like, why Homo sapiens? Like, what made you to work with soil in this citizen science perspective, and what kind of questions you're looking to answer?
So I've been looking into permaculture projects and just working with soil with my own hands since a few years already. And at the same time, I've been always been interested in microbial life. And there's a lot in our soil, and it's actually the most important thing that is in there. Forget all about the chemicals. You have all the chemicals in Sahara sand or wherever. Every kind of soil contains everything that every plant needs. The only thing that is important is that the soil is alive. And this is something we need to spread, and this is something that is best spread through actually working with it and looking at it. And I think everyone should get the chance to, for example, build a little microscope and look at these samples themselves. And yeah, just make own experiments, grow some plants in different kind of soils, just go out, take a shovel, dig up a bit of soil, and just look at the structure, feel it, smell it, taste it.
Eat it.
Yes, eat it, taste it, really. You can find out a lot about the grain structure, for example, just by rubbing it between your hands, by smelling, by tasting. And it's also something that almost everyone has some kind of connection already. And I think for those rare people who never really stuck their hands into soil, it's also important to know where their food comes from and to kind of build up this connection.
Okay, I'm going to translate it here. So eu perguntei para eles sobre a questão do projeto do Homo Sapiens. E por que eles escolheram fazer Homo Sapiens, que tipo de perguntas que eles estão tentando responder através desse projeto. E aí ele falou essa questão do solo como um elemento vivo, né? Então, tá cheio de amostras biológicas lá dentro. Você tem diferentes tipos de bactérias e micro-organismos. E a ideia é que você comece a respeitar esse solo de uma forma mais íntima, né? E você pode construir seu próprio microscópio, começar a observar esses materiais, como que as plantas crescem, explorar essa questão da criatividade, né? Que é uma parte muito sensorial. Então, pegar o solo, cheirar o solo, ver, tatear esses elementos e realmente se conectar com o planeta Terra. Eu acho que é bem uma questão ecológica mesmo nesse projeto. E que todo mundo pode, ou todo mundo já tem uma conexão com o solo, de uma forma, eu sei aquele cheirinho da chuva, né, que cai e tal, mas todo mundo tem alguma relação com o solo. Então isso é bastante interessante. Marc, not a like technical question actually. We have been like receiving a lot of questions when you're talking about like DIY biohacking, doing science outside of like academic perspectives, about biosecurity and safety, which is always comes up like some question regard to this. But then I'm kind of, yeah, I know, right?
I say safety first. Don't drink in the lab. Don't smoke in the lab. Explosion! 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 Explosion!
What? So I got a lot of these questions, and I'm just wondering, like, you have been going to different what is that, fire? Yeah. You have been going to different labs, and you have been like dealing with the Gaudi lab a lot and like very closely. And so how is the perspective about these two issues or points, like biosecurity and security in different spaces that you have been like?
Yeah, so finally, in the German language, we don't have a distinction between biosafety and biosecurity. But I think maybe Switzerland especially is not such a militarized country as the US or the UK. It's not that we do so many wars, we make other ways of cheating people. And yeah, the discussion about this biosafety is mostly about genetics. And with Hackteria, this is one part of what we cover, but it's not our main activities. We sometimes do a bit of CRISPR there, a bit of CRISPR there. But it's not that we're primarily about genetic modified organisms, but we discuss it a lot. Huh? And then the regulation, of course, the mindset in the Germanic environment, where there is such a strong opposition towards GMO in the environment, that it's very difficult to compare the discussion we have in the US or in Latin America, where this kind of GMO soy is everywhere, to the discussion we have in Europe or in Japan or Indonesia. So we do a lot of work around it, but I think it's difficult to generalize biohackers and safety because it's really a local discussion. Our community, maybe 20% of the people are more interested in the GMO, the genetic stuff, the synthetic biology stuff, but we do a lot about soil, we do stuff about building hardware or education. So in fact, I'm a bit bored of the question. And seriously, like, I think these circles that I have encountered, it's very much about sharing very openly what you do. I think we have other threats of laboratories that work on crazy shit, or we have a whole system of academia that has like weird kind of values, and maybe someone goes nuts and do something bullshit. So I really don't think that there is like a threat from these open communities. In the opposite, in fact. We have a lot of people that are frustrated in their work environments that join these kind of events. And so before they go nuts and make some crazy bioterror as a PhD student, they prefer to hang out with like nice people and make some explosions, and maybe also don't take ourselves too serious all the time.
Right. So I'm going to just translate a little bit of what you just said.
Difficult one.
Então, essa questão da biossegurança, eu perguntei para o Marc, porque realmente eu recebo muito essa questão, né, Juliana, sobre biosafety, né, biossegurança e tudo mais em relação à comunidade do biohacker. E que o Marc pensa de uma forma muito semelhante a mim, que realmente, assim, a galera estima demais, né? Então, a questão do laboratório eles não trabalham tanto com genética lá no Hackteria, mas tem pessoas interessadas, de vez em quando eles trabalham com CRISPR ou não, voltam para CRISPR, mas geralmente é uma coisa muito pequenininha, não é o foco principal deles. E ele realmente acha até essa pergunta um pouquinho, assim, não tão relevante para o tipo de contexto que eles trabalham, mas acredito que as discussões são focadas mais localmente, e que a ideia deles é realmente trabalhar mais na perspectiva da curiosidade, né, de investigar solos, montar equipamentos e compartilhar as informações, e também ter essa coisa do hangout, né, das pessoas conviverem juntas e tal. Então não tem tanta essa preocupação com essa questão de de biossegurança, um espaço mais livre mesmo.
Aqui terminou, infelizmente. Queria mais, mas as dúvidas, por enquanto, acho que as pessoas vão querendo começar a mexer, né? Conhecer melhor o trabalho. É bem novo para a gente aqui, né? Não para a rede, não mais, graças a você e a outros colaboradores, né, Felipe? O pessoal da Prometeu Science. Mas eu acho que a gente tem falado bastante sobre o tema e as pessoas têm ainda... são curiosas, mas ainda nunca me colocaram a mão na massa, né? De verdade, a audiência. Eu acho que tem mais gente se sentindo mais curioso e, não, vamos pegar e fazer, faz parte do processo, não sei mesmo, mas ainda tem essa coisa de não saber como é que faz, alguém tem algum lugar para ver. E eu acho que o Marc falou muito sobre criatividade, né? Vamos tentar e você pode fazer, começar e depois vai ter uma comunidade ou pessoas que você está conectado que poderão contribuir para desenvolver essa ideia, né, Felipe? Eu acho que é uma mensagem muito legal deixada, né? Não precisa de um manual, precisa de uma mente curiosa. E bons amigos.
Very powerful what Juliana just said, like that she was really inspired by what you're mentioning, because it's not about a manual of how to do things. Right? It's a lot about put your curiosity into first place, right? And bridging, making connections with other people. And she sees this from this talk like as the main message and about everything. No matter what you're going to do after this, some people are interested in starting, labs and interacting more with the DIY bio community. But to start, it's just about wanting it, not about necessarily thinking much of how things have to be done, because this things will emerge locally, as you said, right?
Yes.
Marc, did you have any other remark that you would like to make, or something that you think we didn't touch, that you think it is important, or anything about coconuts that you want to share with us?
Eu gostaria de adicionar pouquinho mais sobre interdisciplinaridade no projeto, especialmente também no Homo sapiens, que não é só conectado com cientistas do solo e agroecologia, mas também muito sobre política e sobre artes performativas ou poesia, ou qualquer pessoa que é interessada no tópico do solo, que enfim toca-nos todos. Por isso o nome Homo sapiens, somos Homo sapiens do solo, do humus. Que é uma palavra que nos une, enfim, e que nos faz curiosos, e que é o ponto comum que todos nós temos, embora desenvolvemos vários conceitos de workshops na volta disso, em termos de do-it-yourself, construction de equipamentos, de análise, mas também sobre formas diferentes de comunicar a importância desse tema.
Yes.
Exatamente. Obrigado.
Desculpa, não é muito bem em português brasileiro.
Perfeito. Não, fechou.
Melhor você em português do que eu em inglês, viu, Josefine?
So yeah, I think, Juliana, do you want to say something? Or Marc, do you want to say something? Anyone here want to say something that we haven't touched yet, that you wanted to make a final remark?
Maybe so with this Homo sapiens activities over the last months, I figured out it was very interesting to gather people together around the topic of soil and this nice title of Homo sapiens, because it's not about, we really like synthetic biology. It's not about how we do bioart. It's some whatever more general topic. And we have gathered so many different people from different approaches and come together and share and learn from each other and also accept each other's differences. And so this was for me a very nice approach to maybe also the question how to start a lab. Maybe it's good to have this kind of theme together, and not let's bring artists and science together, or let's save the world with some genetic modified organism, but have a kind of just start with a theme. It can be soil, it can be waters, it can be hardware or educational activities, and then the interdisciplinary happens by itself. And this Homo sapiens and humanism discussions, we kind of saw that. And it's also a metaphor, because when we look at soils, it is this very complex dynamic system where all these different players play together, and nothing is dead, nothing is alive, and everything is just like, you know, our kind of, yeah, something like that.
And also think about the human role in our whole biosphere. Like what are we actually doing here, and what could be our purpose if we have one? But yeah, like, but at the same time trying to get away from this anthropocentric view that it's all about the humans, that everything, nature is there to
Homocentric
yeah,
view.
the homocentric view, yeah, or at least yeah, to get away from these perspectives and see it as something more than just to hold plants together where they can grow. It's more than that. I'm also a big critic of hydroponics, exactly because of that reason.
Because they lack soil in there, right? Just like the
Yeah,
water.
we need soil. We need soil.
And it's interesting because, I mean, we live in the planet Earth, right? So
Yeah.
we constantly dealing with Earth in our, you know, daily basis. But at the same time, most of us nowadays live in big cities, right, where concrete is covering pieces and more pieces of land, right? And land is becoming ever more contaminated with, you know, microplastics and
I sell microplastics if you want.
We did a workshop yesterday on microplastics.
There are no microplastics.
And also like all kinds of electronics and etc. So maybe sometimes I even think of like maybe our fossil record will be like screws and electronic things laying around and a lot of plastic, right? And so I think in this project, what I see a lot of it is about taking care of the soil and bridging a connection that is more like intimate, right? So seeing the soil as a partner, right? As sort of like a friendship sort of thing, right?
Yeah, not only that, it's going even further to that the soil is the main player, and we are just stupid animals that are running above the ground and basically destroying it. So to create real respect to
But we figured out in the beginning there was no soil, because all life for millions of years was in water.
True.
And then a bunch of mushrooms crawled the land.
Yes. Now, okay, thank you. Very good. I'm shocked. Just I'm thinking about everything that you're talking about, and it's many information, and we integrate every learning and every knowledge. I think it's very important, and I think it's soil and society is the beautiful painting of the integrating knowledge. Thank you very much.
I would like also to thank you all for this like very broad perspective of how microscopes started and how you can ended up in a project that you apply this into societal perspective. So I'm really happy to see this whole range that we went through. So we didn't become only strict to the microscopes, the material itself, but also the communities that grow around it and how you can apply that. So this is, I think, gave a large range for everybody here. So I'm very thankful, Marc, for accepting this invitation, and all of you from Gaudi's lab for having us talking to you today.
Yeah, super. So we say goodbye now. Or...
All right.
Getting late. later. So it's like midnight here in Switzerland. So, and we have the Homo sapiens on tour. So we leave to Stuttgart tomorrow. So I think we have to start packing soon and still do some experiments. Yeah, super. Was very, very nice. I'll see you. We'll come visit.
Yes, please come, and thank you so much again, and have a good trip with the Homo sapiens. Juliana, thank you so much.
Obrigado, muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
Obrigada, Felipe.
Ciao,
Obrigada,
ciao.
Juliana.
Obrigado.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.